Let's talk about the Prime Minister in Tuvalu. A couple hundred people a year will be able to get citizenship, or a visa to Australia to work, live, and okay, fine, a couple of hundred people, and we all know that Pacific Islanders, good, hard-working people, certainly in our agricultural sector, I don't have an issue with that. But it's this move towards what counts as a refugee. Now, obviously, the refugee charter is all about people fleeing from violence. But right now, the United Nations says there's 110 million people in the world who are natural disaster or climate refugees. And the same organisation says that'll be 1.2 billion people in the year 2050. Now, Stephen, have we seen a scenario, and I understand the sort of 4D chess here about China, and let's not pretend that, that the single thing of 200 people in Tuvalu does anything to China, but it's all about trying to slowly but surely pull together Pacific Islands that they look to Australia before they look anywhere else. Okay. But if there's 110 million climate refugees, and countries like Australia have got tens of thousands of refugees that we take in each and every year, is there not going to be pressure from the extreme and then eventually the mainstream left that number doubles and half of it's about violence and the other half of it is climate change?
Well, look, I think this is a good initiative for the very reasons you described earlier when you said, 4D chess. this is ultimately about Australia having to lift its game. In the Pacific, we've been asleep at the wheel. We've seen China move in, make extensive attempts to undermine Australia's national interest in the region. You've got the Solomon Islands, clearly more than getting into bed with China. There's suggestions there could be, the dock become a naval base on our doorstep by China. So again, it's always when it comes to dealing with China, don't listen to what they say, just watch what they do and act appropriately. So yes, there is a large part of that. The Pacific nations, whether you agree with it or not, Paul, believe that climate change is far more of a threat than you might. But unfortunately, if we want to engage in a conversation with them and try and ensure that we are their partner of choice, then we are going to make some tough calls, like there is an issue here that needs to be dealt with. The government, the US government, most of the rest of the world.
Sure, but what if it's Bangladesh? What if it's Indonesia?
These issues. No, but what we've said is we'll deal with this on a country-by-country basis. This isn't some blanket change. We're dealing with this on a country-by-country basis. And I think that is the smart and appropriate way to deal with it.
Okay, but James, do you think that the door's being open here to the types of people that will qualify as refugees under a very generous intake is now not just going to include war, not just going to include political persecution, but it's going to be climate change?
Well, there's no persecution of these people. So no, their definition of a refugee doesn't sit well. And of course, most Australians will be horrified at the fact that we're going to take more people in from a country. I think their average income over in Tuvalu is about $10,000 a year. So they'll come here, be given unemployment benefits, which are almost double that. There's a massive incentive to leave the country straight away. And if you're taking 280 people out of a country of 11,000, it's somewhere around 2.5% of their population every year will actually be shipping over to our country. I'm not the brightest of advisors in Canberra. I'm certainly not the dullest, because Albo seems to have the majority of them, because the size of Tuvalu has actually increased in size. Its land mass has grown by 180 acres over the last 4 decades. Albo, I'll give you some free advice. Don't have to pay for it. Don't take these based on this whole idea of climate refugee. It's just false, and Australians really should be writing to the Prime Minister saying we don't agree with this.